Now, back in the day when I worked with Paul Mitchell, I created a haircut called the Erica, which is based off of that technique. But I'm going to do a variation of it and kind of bring it into more of a wolf cut, so a shorter wolf cut. So our sectioning is from the high occipital ridge. Actually, it's not from the high, it's right from the peak of it. If we look at where my comb touches, it's touching right on it. And then that works down the ridge, following it, the top part of that ridge, to in this mastoid area. It's kind of like where the hairline decides to change from being more vertical to horizontal. Right, so working with bone structure and head shape and hairline. So I've done that on both sides, and then what I've got is I've got this crown area, and that takes me up right to the top of the head right there. So on this mannequin, that's the apex right there. So I'll work the nape first, then I'll work a disconnected layer over the top of it, and then I'll work a little bit of a rounded shape through the front, all right? But there's probably going to be a couple of shapes in here that you'll see that you could do. You don't actually have to round the front, we could leave that. So just looking at this underneath area, and actually a little bit, am I? Let's see. Just going to come up here a little bit. I want to make sure that my sectioning is on the even side of things. All right, let's get going. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask as we go through it. So we're going to work the nape first. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tilt that head forward a little bit, just so it can help me get into this area. So I'm actually going to take vertical sections first through this area, and I'm going to take the weight away vertically instead of horizontally. See, what I could do is I could work horizontal sections and lift everything up to that. But sometimes I don't know what will happen with the length by just doing that. That's probably the con from that particular technique. Yes, it takes it away easier and quicker, but I don't know what's happening with the length. And by the time I lift that up, I don't want any surprises. So if I work through it vertically, I can get a much leaner removal of weight. And I can actually see the length that's down there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to the side, and I'm actually just going to take the comb, just like normal. I'm going to put my fingers now right behind that comb. Now if you're looking at me, what you'll notice is that I'm flipping you off. What I'm not doing is that. See, when I do that and my palm faces the head, what it does is it pushes me forward and it makes all this very uncomfortable, all right? So by just standing normally and doing this, and then placing that hair in those fingers, those two fingers, it just makes it a little bit easier now for me to just elevate that hair up and away from the outline. Now what will happen is I will take the weight out, so you can see it's going to make this shorter. Now what that will do is, obviously shorter hair is stronger than long hair. This is the most protruding part of the head shape. So what will happen is the shorter hair will stick out through here. And it'll kind of create like a faux graduation. It's actually the opposite to graduation, because I'm going to leave this longer and take this shorter. But when that falls on the head, it's going to do that. And it really just sculpts and takes that weight out. This is what I would call liposuction in haircutting. You're really just taking the guts out. And this can be done on many different layered shapes. Longer hair, for example, when you don't want to see such short hairs through the crown, but you have so much density back here because the hairline's lower than it is in the front, right? You've got more hair back there. So just by taking some of this underneath out, you could create an invisible layer, all right? Again, I'm going short, so this is a little bit more of an extreme variant. So again, lifting up, and really all I'm going to do is I'm just going to make my fingers parallel to the ceiling. Well, not our ceiling, it's actually more of a vaulted angle, but you can see what I'm doing. So that takes the inside shorter, and it's going to keep that length that you see right there. So it leaves this to drop away. coming in with the points of the scissors because of the shortness and proximity to the head shape. So now when I let that fall, you can probably see this against my shirt now. You can see the shorter hair on the underneath. So it kind of gives you that question mark kind of shape. So you see now this is sticking out. So now what we'll do is we'll put this over that later, right? Great technique. So you can imagine that on longer hair, right? Great kind of technique to use to just reduce bulk. So we'll continue working around the head. Now, I can overdirect everything into number one here, and what that's going to do is it's going to leave this heavier through here. So let's just do that and see what happens. I can always come through and take more weight out if I want to. But if it's gone, it's gone. So we'll maintain it to begin with. We'll look and we'll assess it. And then if we don't like it, we'll adjust it. So now all I'm going to do is go back to the same body position. Again, same with the fingers, lifting up towards the ceiling. And there's the guide. And just pointing, really, I'm coming from the side because I can't quite get there with that. And there's that length that we protect. So you see I'm keeping all the length that was there. So we're keeping that bob length that we created. We're just taking that weight out of the inside. Same thing, bringing everything into the middle. So I'm moving around and then I'm bringing myself back to that body position. By staying here, I'm now going to bring everything into the middle. I can see that hair being brought into the center. Let's get that again. Make sure that everything's clean and consistent. There it is.
Kai said, "You're the best."
What's up, Kai? How you doing, pal?
And then someone said, "Your model's very beautiful and this color suits her."
Yes. My model comes to you from Evo, from Australia. Probably not made in Australia, but. And the color is, what is it, Katie? What did you use? We used
Stano and Fab Pro.
Fab Pro together. Today's our content day. We're going to be working on some reels after this for you guys. So again, everything brought into that middle. So now you can see that it leaves quite a lot of weight through this area because of the over direction.
Oh, someone had a question. What if the client wants, it says shortness in the top while maintaining a perimeter that's down at the bottom of the back?
Okay. If you have any perimeter, great question. The question was, how do we maintain a perimeter and have short layers through here, right? Mm-hmm. So what you have to do is you have to realize that the hairline in the front is here. So if you layer any lower than that, then you endanger ruining the length that you've created in the front. So you can layer from the length that is created at the occipital bone or higher. So you could use the occipital length as your guide. You could use the length at the top of the crown as your guide. You could use any length that you want. As long as you don't use any length that's lower than this, you should protect your outline all the way through. So what you want to be doing is you want to be pulling away from what you want to keep, right? So I want to keep the length, so I'm lifting up here. So if I want that length even longer, I'm probably up here, you know what I mean? But I wouldn't do this technique if I wanted to only see layers through the crown. This is a kind of an illusion. I'm taking the weight out of here, then we're going to have this over the top. So just looking at that, I feel it's a little too heavy in here. So I'm going to change the over direction. I'm going to go back to section number 2. And instead of bringing it all the way into number 1, I'm just going to lift it straight out. So I'm going to change my over direction to just following the head shape around now. And I'll start to see the difference of me pulling everything straight out versus straight into the first section. So sometimes it's good to start with the heaviest option just to see how it works. You know, especially if you're working on somebody for the first time. Plus you're working a shape that you've never done on maybe that client before. So again, instead of pulling into the center, now I'm just pulling straight out. And you can see the difference of weight that was kept by pulling towards the middle. It's very simple. Pull away from what you want to keep. So right now, I'm pulling up to keep the length. Before, I was pulling up and in to keep the weight through here. Now I don't want to pull so much in because I want to take some of this away. So I don't pull back, I just follow the head shape, but I continue to pull up so I maintain the all-important length back here. So again, just no over direction here, just pure elevation, again lifting up and away from the outline. So look at all that weight that was kept there by pulling back to that first section. See, now I can just...
Someone asked, is this going to be disconnected or not?
Yeah, just like I said earlier, this is disconnected. Stick with me. So I lift it straight up to the ceiling, you can see, keeping my fingers parallel to the ground. I think the thing here is to just try not to cut yourself. Just be very gentle with it. There's no points for being aggressive when cutting hair. So look at all that excess weight that was kept there by pulling into the center. So again, just being very patient and consistent. So now I can see that area is much lighter. So what I'll do is I'll just have a little look at that. Some water in here. So kind of like a cross check, right? So I'll take horizontal section and we'll just have a look at this. So I need to lift this up to kind of where it was cut. So I lift that up and I can see that, and all I'm going to do is just clean that up.
Douglas is on.
What's up, Douglas?
Someone asked, how do you feel about thinning scissors?
The question was, how do I feel about thin scissors? I don't really feel anything about them. I think it just depends on how you've been raised to cut hair. And the first 10 years of my career were at Vidal Sassoon. So I was not taught to use or need a pair of thinning scissors. Now, do I disagree with them? No, not at all. I feel that they're useful in many different scenarios, especially when you're working against the clock. I would use them, but I'd probably use them a different way. I don't think I'd be doing this. I'd be doing more this with it. I like that idea. But it's like each to their own. Have fun with what we have, you know? Like I don't only use these. I've got a tool roll over here. Look at this thing. See, look at all my different scissors. And I've got loads more than those at home. And I have a razor.
I can't put it back.
All right, so now I'm going to do the other side. So just turn her around. and we'll work through the same process. I'm not going to switch body positions. There's no point in me doing that because this is going to be extremely difficult, right? What you don't want to do is work in. Don't work in, right? We see this a lot when we bring this up and we do that. It's much easier to work from short to long, not long down to short. Remember, layering is a removal of weight. If I work from the outside in, I may have a tendency to actually leave a corner of weight through that middle. So it's much better to work shortest fingertips, longest knuckles. You just have more control over it then. So down the middle, get my guy from the previous side. And we'll do the same process. Again, just using the previous as the guide now, not over directing into the center. And what I like to do is I like to just check over the top of my fingers. So there I can see exactly where the hair's being pulled to, whether I'm pulling it back or forward or straight out, but lifting up. Again, I feel the thing is having control. It's cutting with intent and having control over that. Making sure that this is what we're looking for. When it falls, it's doing exactly what we want it to do. We don't have to blow dry it to make it look like it's doing what we want it to do. We actually want it to act and react how we want it to do its thing. What's the score, Todd?
1-0.
To Germany.
Yeah.
So we're over here enjoying the Euros for you football or soccer, as they call it in America, fans. Go England. So yeah, walking all the way around, lifting straight up to the ceiling, taking a look over the top just to make sure that I'm not over directing that back, and then using the points of the scissors to just cut through this. You can still create quite a clean line by using the points of the scissors. If you think about it, that's how we get all those laser lines around the outline. We use those tiny points of the scissors to cut it really sharp.
Someone asked, if in town, could someone shadow for the day or rent a chair for the day here at the salon?
Yes, of course. Yes, we do offer rental for people that are out of town, that are coming to San Diego maybe to do clients. FYI, I don't work doing clients here, so you wouldn't be shadowing me. I'm a full-time teacher. You'd be shadowing Katie or Todd, who's
Hi.
here. But yeah, we definitely do that. We also do one-on-one, so you can come to San Diego and get one-on-one education, you know, with me or any of the three of us. Our one-on-one program is really cool because you always get to bring a friend for free, so it's like a 2-for-1. So you don't get to be here alone, you can bring someone with you, so it's much easier on you. And so that's an option. So I'm just coming through and I'm cross-checking again. So checking the opposite way. Again, I'm going to lift that up, and there, that's what I'm looking at. What I could do is I could come and stand over the head and do that. But then that's a whole other scenario with your client that you have to come and work on. But this is probably more the old school way of achieving this. So I can see there, I just left a little bit of weight there. So that's the reason why we cross-check, just to make sure that everything is in line and it's doing what we want it to do. If I see anything major, I could probably come back through the other way. But now that I've got everything in there and I know that my length's protected, it's much easier. So you may be questioning as to why I didn't do it this way to begin with, and the reason why is so that I protect the length. If I work horizontally and just lift up, I might get to that last section down at the bottom and all of a sudden, well, a lot of hair's coming off. Whereas if I work vertically, I can see the length at the bottom all the time. And I can also remove all that weight. So now we've got that underneath, you can see I've still got that nice solid outline of the bob. But now when we look at this profile, look at the strength of that now. Now you see that silhouette of that shorter inside. So as that dries, that's just going to push out. So now what you've got is you've got like this support system. It's going to make this do something. Get some volume over that. So now I'm going to work the crown area. And what we have to think about now is we have to think about what kind of length we want this to be. Where do we want that to fall? Because look, it just falls all the way over it right now, down to my outline. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take vertical sections and I'm going to pivot from that point right there on the apex all the way around to that spot right there. That will keep my sections vertical. All right. So my first section from that point down to the bottom here. And now let's have a look at where we want this to sit. We're going to ignore that. Like now, if we connect to that, look how short those layers are going to be in the crown. Right? So that's going to be a very interesting variation of this technique, isn't it? So we're really just going to take the hair and sit over that now. This has been done so that we reduce the bulk, but we keep the length. So now let's just sit that in that area. Let's figure out where we want it to fall. So let's go a little bit longer. I'm just going to cut flat. That will leave me a little bit more weight through here. See, as that head starts to curve off through that area, instead of me following it and taking more weight off, I'll leave that weight in there. So it's almost kind of keeping it bob heavy. So you see that weight? Just sits in that area, doesn't it? So let's just take that a touch shorter. So keeping it flat, you can see. There's the underneath. It's not going to connect. So it's disconnected to the underneath. Disconnection means one or more areas that don't meet by the means of a guideline. Look at that now. That's great.
Cool.
So we'll use that and we'll pivot our sections around. So that disconnection literally means there's two haircuts going on right now. And two haircuts that will live independently from each other. So this crown doesn't connect. It's not going to do what the nape does. It's not going to be governed by what the nape does. What will happen is these will move around independently. So we're going to get a lot more movement with this now than if it was connected. So really starting to see that shape form in there. So again, it's just a variation. I'm not saying this is a classic wolf cut or anything like that. It's more of kind of a combo of different layering techniques. So as I'm doing this, I'm not over-directing. I'm actually just walking around the head towards the front. So I'm pulling each section straight out from the head shape as they go. If I pull back, then it's just going to keep getting heavier and heavier and heavier towards the front.
Someone asked, is your background and familiarity with the contemporary classics, did the White Winter have any influence on this haircut?
The White Winter is a graduated haircut with a layer over the top of it, with the disconnection. I'm extremely familiar with all of that. I'm actually one of the co-writers of the Vidal Sassoon ABC, so I'm pretty well versed on all of that stuff. The White Winter, short graduation through the underneath with the disconnected layer over the top. So the only familiarity or similarity between the two is it's disconnected. Beautiful haircut with great colour. It was White Winter with yin-yang colour. The haircut was done by our late friend Anne-Marie. And obviously the colour was done by the infamous Annie Humphreys. So now we're coming through. And we've worked all the way through to the side here. So you can see the underneath still disconnected, no connection whatsoever.
Someone asked, do you come teach in Paris?
Yes, I do come teach in Paris. I was just there in April teaching in Paris. I will be in Europe in November. I'll be there again in November. I'm going to be teaching in Milan, Italy, on November 17th and 18th. I'm going to be doing a fusion class with a really great education group called BONS, B-O-N-S. So that's in Milan, and that's my next European slot. So you can see now that shape that's happened in the back. It's like I have like a stacked bob over this underneath, but there's no graduation whatsoever going on in there. We've got a concave layer on the underneath, and then we've got a flat layer sitting over the top of it. So now I'll just do the other side, same process. Oops. Let me get a couple more clips. Hope everyone's doing okay. So now let's go over here. We're going to drop that down a bit. Now it's a flat layer, so I'm going to continue to keep my fingers this way and cut on the inside of the fingers. If I start to move to the outside, it's very easy for me to drop that elbow and start to round that through. Whereas when I cut on the inside of the fingers, your natural tendency is to slightly pull the head down. So that slight kind of tendency will help me maintain length and weight through here, that flatness. So utilizing body position to help you with this. So again, pivoting off that crown. Using the other side as the guide.
Killer Hair Inc. sent us a badge.
What's that? Killer Hair? Oh, what's up, Remy? How you doing, pal? You watching the football? So again, instead of me working this way, I'm continuing to cut hair on the inside of the fingers. So on this previous side, I work this way. What that does is it allows me to keep it flatter, right? As soon as I start to go on the outside of my fingers, I have this tendency to curve because that's what my fingers do. My elbow drops. So I'm just going to work smarter and not harder with this. And let my fingers do the work for me. So again, I'm not looking to round this through. I'm wanting to keep the weight so that it keeps it heavier. Almost creates like this bob shape over that underneath. So again, working in a kind of a variation of the wolf colour. A couple of other classes I got to mention while I'm online here with you guys is I will be in, where am I going? I'm going to be in Burlington, Vermont, and that will be in September 29th. And then the next day I'll be in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and that is on September the 30th. Those links are in my bio. and they're through Sullivan Beauty over there in the New England area. Congratulations, Tyler, on becoming a father. And where else am I going to be? I'm going to be in Austin, Texas on October the 21st. I think there's 2 tickets left for that class. And again, link in my bio. And then October 28th, I will be in Sacramento teaching my hands-on class. Again, the links for those classes are in my bio. And then one other thing that we're really excited to be a part of is the Hairbrain Festival, which is going to be in September in Palm Springs. Tickets are available. There's only 100 tickets left actually, probably less than that now. Great lineup of educators. There's way too many for me to mention right now, but I'm sure some of you have seen the lineup. It's pretty awesome. And there's more people getting added to it. So we'll be teaching some look and learns, and I will be doing a main stage presentation. And I will be doing that with my good friends at Evo, which is going to be awesome.
So someone asked, when you're working in the back,
Yes.
what is your thought process for the length in the front? Like, does the back affect the length in the front?
The front, for me, I'm going to take this shorter. So to be honest with you, I'm not really that bothered what happens here, because I'm looking for something through here, but I want to keep that. So it's another disconnection, if you will. Do you get what I'm saying? So the shorter I go, the more extreme that mullet that could look. You know what I mean? So it's really up to you and the individual that's working on it. Now, my thought process about what I've done in the back is how heavy this hangs over that underneath area. So now we're really just starting to see that kind of shape pop in now. So what I've got, guys, is I've got a concave layer on the underneath, and then I've got a flat layer over the top. Now, as that head shape curves over, what that means is this hair becomes much heavier than what's below it. It's longer. So it creates more of a weight line. If I want to eliminate that weight line, then I won't cut flat. I'll just start to curve. If I want more of a weight line, then I'll go and cut more of a graduation, so we get like a full concave vertically through that area. So that's kind of my thought process for that area. Once I get to this, I'll talk to you a little bit more about it. So now I just kind of want to cross-check through that area. Now, sections are pivoted, right? Now, a pivot creates a circle, right? Especially if you don't use any over direction, because that's what a clock is. It's actually a circle, isn't it? So for me to cross-check this, I need to come in with circular sections through that area and just pull the hair to where it is cut and have a look. You see, look at the roundness. Just followed the head shape all the way around, and that's what I've achieved. So now I go lower, and I check that, lower. And I look again at the roundness. If I see anything I don't like, I just dust over that. But again, this is what cross-checking is for, just to make sure everything is perfectly sound. You're building a structure, so it's like building a house. You're going to have it inspected so that it's safe and it's not going to fall over and all that stuff. Well, that's what cross-checking is. So understanding the phases of a haircut is really important. So to me, it's like I build the house first, then I check it, then I decorate it afterwards. So I'm not really doing any like cosmetic stuff or anything like that now. I'll do that more once it's dry. So same thing through here. Just checking those sections.
Someone asked, do you prefer using a short blade throughout only the layering or throughout the entire haircut?
Okay, so the kind of scissor brand or length questions are coming in. It's totally up to the individual. But me, I'm more of a common sense haircutter. I'm an educator. So I know what does what in a way. So to me, I just, again, understanding what works with the scissor. For me, I only need that much. I don't need anything longer than that. I'm only going to cut from there to there anyway. Do you know what I mean? Only time a long scissor might play good is on your outlines. But you have to remember you're cutting a rounded dome, right? That's how the hair falls. It falls rounded because it lives on a rounded surface. So the longer the scissor, the more corners I create as I'm cutting through on the inside of the shape. So, you know, you have to kind of use that logic to understand what size scissor works for what area. You know, a large scissor in the nape is not going to be the easiest for you to control. We see people using them, but you're seeing like Jedi masters and wizards use them. Do you get what I'm saying? We've been using them forever. They're an extension of our hands. But the thing is that the further my blade is away from one hand, the weaker I become. The closer I am, the stronger I am. So that's a lot of my logic behind scissor size. Now, I like I said, started my time at Vidal Sassoon, so it was 4.5, 5-inch scissors. And then we got a little adventurous and we started using 6-inch scissors. Then I left Vidal Sassoon and I realized that everybody else uses swords when they cut hair, so I gave it a go. You know, I've tried it, it just doesn't work for me. And it's just like a pair of shoes. You've got to try them on to make sure that they fit you. So it's, you know, different strokes for different folks. All right, so that's really coming into play now. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this through into the front. So I'm actually just going to continue the shape. So I want to show you what happens before we cut the front out. All right, so if you know you're going to cut the front out, then I probably wouldn't do this step. All right, this is just me showing you what's going to happen if we just continue this through. So now I'll just keep my sections vertical. Use a piece from that back area as the guide. Let's keep her that way. There's the guide. So now I just follow this through. So that flat layer now, all the way through. Now flat layer lives in the concave world, because it does not follow the vertical contour of the head shape. Therefore, it's concave. Convex is to simply follow the head shape. Anything else falls into the concave world. We call it flat, but it's technically a concave. You will have shorter pieces and long pieces within that section, on that dimension. So I'm not over-directing back. If I over-direct back, then it's just going to keep getting heavier and heavier. It's going to kind of naturally do that anyway. So I don't really want to add to that. So I can see my weight line coming through flat. If I overdrape back, that weight line is just going to keep getting heavier. Now the outline, this, is just doing whatever happens with the hairline. So we're going to see the hair come over the ear, down again, then it's going to come up again, just like your hairline would do. All right, so don't be alarmed when you see a corner in the front, because that's what happens there anyway. Don't be alarmed when you see it do that, because that's what happens there anyway. If you don't want any of that, then you don't do this haircut. You have to do something completely different to maintain that length all the way through. So that would be last week's class. Cutting an outline and then maintaining it while layering it all the way through. The only length that we're protecting here is literally the back length that we have in that nape.
Question, is the Austin class in your link tree?
Yes, it is. If you go to my Linktree link in the biography, then you can find the Austin class in there. You find all my available class links in my Linktree. I put a list up the other day of all my classes. Not all of them are available to everybody. Some of them are private, and some of them are sold out. So you have to go to my Linktree link to find the available classes. So I've worked all the way through this way. So you can see what kind of happens. I get this like bob shape over the top of that. But obviously that's going to leave that heavier, isn't it? So we want to take that away. So I'll do the same thing on the other side, and then I'll turn it into that wolf front area or shag fringe, whatever you want to call it. So same scenario. You know what feels weird, Katie? Is me doing the same haircut on both sides.
You don't do that often.
I don't do that often, guys. I teach all the time, so I'm always teaching half this and half that. It's quite nice to do a full haircut.
People ask what about the other side? What about the other side? This is the other side.
Exactly. We're on the other side. And as you can see, it's the same technique. The only thing that changes is now my fingertips are pointing down. If I point up, then I'm going to keep pushing that hair forward. So the consistency comes from coming from the front back. And then if anything goes wrong, I'll get longer towards the front. If I do this, I'll just get shorter. That's always a mistake. So try not to take too big of a section as I move through, because if I do that, I'll pull the hair backwards by accident.
The Austin class, someone said it just sold out.
Oh, sorry guys. See, as soon as I mention it, you guys are on it, buying tickets. Thank you very much. I'll see you guys in Austin. In fact, we'll see you in Austin. Katie's coming.
Yay! I love Texas.
Texas. All right.
There's keys in the door.
So keep going all the way through.
Someone asked, when choosing a body position, are you working off of the head, the floor, the ceiling, or just whatever feels most natural?
Nothing to do with what feels most natural. You have to put yourself in the position where it does it for you. So it's got nothing to do with the floor or the ceiling right now. My body position is I'm foot stood in front of everything I'm cutting, right? If I stand in the back, I'm going to pull the hair towards me. If I stand in the front, I'm going to pull the hair towards me. So I need to stand in the correct place where I pull the hair to. It's super simple. Your arms are attached to your body, so wherever you put your feet, you're going to pull the hair to that spot. Unless you're pushing hair. You get what I'm saying? So I hope that answers your question. Now I do use the room when it comes to over directions and elevations and things like that. So now you can see that shape by me just continuing that flat layer all the way through to the front. You can see the weight line. See how it slightly gets heavier towards the front? It does that on both sides. So that it leaves this piece here, doesn't it? So again, if you wanted that, this is a kind of a cool shape. Again, it's all based off that kind of anime feeling, you know? So when we look at this, guys, see what I want to kind of identify and point out here is what happens with the underneath. So you see what's happening here? This is your hairline. So it's only copying what your hairline does. So that's the thing. If you don't want it to do that, then you've got to layer much longer and heavier so you protect this. So now let's kind of put the front through. Looks good, doesn't it? I like
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Obviously, I would blow dry this, iron it, and then I would, do something with this where it's not so different, We'd play that into it. But now what we want to do is we kind of just want to take this front area so I'm like taking like a hairband size section. So from the frontal area to just behind the ear. Yeah, let me turn it around. Like so. Do that on both sides. So I've got this band from the kind of like front of the apex to right behind the ear. So think of this is like the nape now, right? See, the apex and the occipital are very similar. They have the same contour, right? And if we think about it, this could literally be the back. This could be the crown, which it is, right? So I'm literally just working the nape of the front area. So if you think about what I'm going to do, it's almost like I'm going to cut a graduated bob in this front area now. But obviously it's not going to be graduation, it's going to be layers. So I'll start in the middle. Now we have to kind of get an idea of where we want the fringe to fall, right? So I'll just take a little piece. Right, and now this is where we start to look at, for the person that asked the question about, you know, where do we look at the balances of things? I think that was the question. I take into consideration what's happening in the back when I do the front. I exactly do. So look at where this is falling. Come and look at the profile. So there's where the layers are falling, all right? So I don't know if I want a fringe down here. Do you know what I mean? It needs to be nose or higher up so that it works with this. Do you get what I'm saying? So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to snip this a little bit longer than I normally would. So I'll start there because it's going to jump up. Right? So that's my kind of length for my fringe area. So now what we have to do is cut the interior of that. So if I pull this forward, use that length as the guide right there, you can see that piece, you see it? Then that will cut flat. So that's going to leave weight within the fringe. Right? So you're not really going to get much curtain from that because it's not layered enough. Right? Curtain just means feathered or flick. Right? They all mean layered. So the layer will create a reaction in the hair that will make it flick. So if I now come through and I kind of follow the head shape, I'm going to have to turn my body position here though, to this way. So now if I pull that straight out from that frontal area and I use that as the guide, now I'm layering over that. So you see now I've taken more weight out of this area. So now that will fall much lighter. You see how you kind of get the curtains already happening? That's what they are. It's just layers. So I'm getting more reaction now off that than I did before. So same, well not same thing, but I'm now going to take the same angle of section and I'm going to push this into the middle. And that's going to be the guide. So it's a stationary guideline. So in actuality, I could just take this whole panel and bring that into this now. And that layers through.
Hold on.
What's going on?
Oh, she's getting her freaking. She's getting her freaking.
Boom. So now we're taking that through, and you can see now I've got that rounded area in the front. Cool? So let's do the same thing on the other side. So now I'm still going to stand in that same position. I don't want to change my body position. I want to cut uphill. Use the previous side as the guide. And now straight out from the head shape. So we'll bring everything now into that section. How are we doing, Todd?
Doing good.
Cool. Todd's on the camera now.
Hi guys.
I don't know if you've met Todd yet, guys. Actually, you have. You did a live with us, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
So now we can see that front area. And I could obviously go quite a lot shorter with that if I wanted to, but I kind of want to keep it in that eyebrow cheekbone area. And now just let this. So we've got the disconnections. So now what we'll do is we'll just blow dry, well, we'll put the right product combination in there first. And then what I'll do is I'll start to wrap dry and get this nice and smooth. Then I'll use the iron to really flatten the hair. And then that's when I'm going to start refining. So the shape is obviously heaviest through the top, through here, because of this elevation that's been used. So I've got a very solid weight line through here. I don't want to necessarily lose that weight. I just want to kind of get the strength of that weight line and make it a little bit lighter so that the hair reacts better in the longevity part of the haircut. It'll look good when it's done, but we have to think it's got 6 weeks, 8 weeks of life that you've got to kind of keep it out there, maybe longer, you know, especially with the economy how it is, you know what I mean? We want to make our work last much longer than that. So all we're going to do now is I'll take it and blow dry it. I'm going to use Day of Grace by Evo to start with. This just primes the hair, keeps it nice and healthy, and it acts like a nice barrier on the hair. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Head Mistress, this good stuff, cuticle sealer. And this is great. I sometimes use the Easy Tiger. You probably see me use that. That's also a really good like smoothing balm. This is really good for getting nice and smooth and straight. So just a bit of that in the hair. Again, I don't want to put it all in one particular area. So I work from the ends into the hair. And then what I'll do, like I said, is I'm going to come through and start to flat wrap the hair. So let me just show you what that means. So just using the paddle brush, flat paddle brush, all right? You don't really need the nozzle to begin with. and I'll just start to move the hair forward and down. What I don't want to do is go up. That's just going to add volume at the roots, and that's not what I'm after. I want the technique of the haircut to do what it's supposed to do. So I'll just do this, wrap it round, and once I've got that wrapped, then I'll start to work the ends, and then I can put the nozzle on for when I work the ends. So I'm going to take about an hour or so to do that. I will post the finished look. I'll post the blow dry as well for you guys. I want to say thanks for joining us, and we'll be back next week. Cheers.